So this is part 2 of our origin story.
Go,
because
Marcy.
we're running too long.
No, these are definitely 2 separate times. We are time management people.
Change our outfits. I do have a new drink.
At least new drinks. We all have new drinks for part 2.
So what do we want to discuss about in this hour or 15 minutes or however we're going to talk?
Well, I think this part 2, maybe the first one we definitely were talking about which books we love the most. And this part 2, I think we're talking about why we love reading the most.
Part 2.
Part 2.
What book? Book Club, episode 2.5?
I like the way you say it. The
what book? You gotta be confused.
I keep forgetting that.
You came up with it. You did. It was really good. Yeah. That's your thing.
So I don't know. I feel like I feel like we should have an addition to this.
Yeah.
I like book club and I like the way it goes. We all read a book and we sit and we talk about it. But I think it would be super cool if we all brought like a book that means something to us.
Yeah.
And we just trade them.
Oh, I like
that
idea.
And that doesn't have to be part of the book club or the podcast. We can talk about it.
Yeah, you guys
I watched you guys trade and I'm a little jealous, you know. So I think that's what we should do. For the bookcast, we'll just mention, today I brought this book and this, you know, a quick synopsis of why I brought this book with me. Okay. Even if it is because it's the only one that was the least dusty or had it been dropped in the bathtub 4 times.
It's been in my purse.
Right?
Well, and that's why I love book club is because I get so overwhelmed with all the books that are out there because like when I find a book I want to read everything by that author. Mm-hmm. And then which is why I'm reading Jillian, whatever her name is now, because I loved Gone Girl was so different. Flynn. And Sharp Objects is so good. But I want to I love recommendations from other people. I love, and that's why when I go into a bookstore, I went into the Strand in New York City, which is miles of books, and I was can we go? I gotta go. I don't know what's going on here. I need an editor's picks table, you know? So that's what I love about books.
We're talking about books, the trade, and then
the trade-off.
I like that.
So because there's other books that I really like, but sometimes I feel like I'm pushing the book club in my direction, and that's not what it's supposed to be about. Don't get me wrong. You guys can all read books I love all the time, but what I really like is books like Wild, which I would have never picked up and ever read, but I loved it.
I don't think we're pushing anything because honestly, this book club was supposed to be Twilight-y, sci-fi type of thing.
That was the it was origin story. Should we say how the book club started?
That's good.
How did this? Oh, we were all sitting around planning
our Twilight pre-party.
No. Hunger Games pre-party.
I'm sorry.
Hunger Games.
Because Dave was there, and he was the one who said, Dave, what is he, Dave number 4 or something in our group of Daves? Yeah. So he was there, Tall Dave. I think Tall Dave. All right, hold on. So, because Tall Dave was there, and it was part of his idea, so it definitely had to be Hunger Games.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we were getting prepared to see the midnight showing of Hunger Games. And so we were all talking about that, and he looked around, listening to us talk about books. He's like, you guys should start a book club. We're like, yeah, maybe we should. And Jennifer was like, yes, we definitely should. And she kept looking to me to be the first one to have it. But I had angst. I was like, I don't know. Do I have to pick a book? What if nobody likes it? And I think after about 3 months, we finally did.
I don't know why. I just didn't do it.
I don't know. I can't.
You know what I love about the book you picked, now that we've talked about your origin story, is that it's one of those stories. Isn't the Nancy Boys one of those types of stories?
Yeah.
Yes.
They talk about the fairy tale in the book.
I love it.
Mm-hmm. That's a perfect example of a book I would never have read. And halfway through, I was like, why am I reading this damn book? and as it got, I was like, oh, I like that. Don't do that. All of a sudden, I was involved in the story, and at the end of it, I was like, oh, what a cool journey I just went on.
I just like that. I've always gone back to that type of book. That's my favorite. Just those folk tales, fairy tales. And after I started reading the European ones, I went to Norse mythology and Greek mythology and African folk tales. The only ones I didn't do was American folk tales, but we don't really have any cool ones other than Paul Bunyan and silly things like that.
No, wait, you said cool.
We don't really have any cool
ones.
Yeah.
Paul Bunyan isn't cool.
No, he's not. So I just love that, and I always go back to that type of story, which is really just telling a moral or whatever wrapped up in this kind of otherworldly type of thing. Yeah.
I love the ones where it's like I think that's what I love about Harry Potter, and the first movie is like my favorite because it's like he's just like a normal kid. He's got kind of a sucky life. Not kind of, I mean it's sucky. And then he like realizes like, oh wait, there's something special about me. And I love that because I'm like, oh, maybe I am a princess. Maybe. It can still happen. I can still find out. If I just did that Ancestry.com.
That's the perfect point, though. That's exactly what Marcy was saying, is that, like, truly great books always have that thread. I mean, in the middle with, like, Harry Potter and all the magic spells and three-headed monsters, at the essence of it is a boy learning to believe in himself.
Mm-hmm.
That's, like, it. And that's the emotional gravity of the entire story. That's why, like, Percy, with his flying prank book of craziness, you're like, you love all of that, and you're in all of those goofy moments or scary moments, but the thing that draws you back is, God, I hope Harry's okay.
Yeah.
Well, a good book is a good book is a good book. It doesn't matter what the genre is, what who it's written for. The Green Eggs and Ham. Care who reads it. This is a good book. It might only have.
All right, here's the thing. I don't like that book, and here's why I don't like that book. It's so long. It takes like 20 minutes to read it to Ivy. I keep trying to skip like sections of it, and she's like, Mom, I don't think he didn't eat them on a box or with the fox. And I'm like, oh gosh, read it yourself.
Just like a parental moment for a second. Rowan is totally into those tiny little board books, and he has to read 10 of them every night. 10 books, Mom. 10 books. 10 books. 10 books.
Who taught you to count to 10? Let's start good. 1, 2, 10.
The daycare person's like, he keeps skipping numbers to 10. Don't fix that.
I have stopped using inflection when I read the stories. And then Nemo got home safely. Moving on. Just like, and we're just, now we're done. It's so bad. It's so bad. All right, sorry. 10 books, Green Eggs and Ham. Moving on now.
Anyway, my point was, it doesn't matter. A good story will just live on, and it'll just continue. So something even really simple will just speaks to people and will just stay.
I'll tell you what, that is what like awakens the writer in me. To be able to write a story that somebody sits in their bed and they read and they like smile and they're with the character the whole time. And when they're done, they're like, I really like that. Like that's what really is like awakens the writer in me wanting to write, just to have someone remember it. Something, I'll write a pop song if it'll stick in your head, just having that sort of like lasting story that goes along with it. Like that's really what pushes me towards wanting to write.
That is a perfect way to put it, because that's a feeling I have. If I'm reading something that I've written, and there's just a particular feeling at the end of it where I'm like, okay, that I would be proud of to share with other people, like because it has that element of something about it would make somebody's day happy, or it would touch them, or something. But there's a feeling I have afterwards. If I don't get it after something I've written, I'll just put it away and I'll write something else. But that's exactly what it is. You put it perfectly. Like, you want it to stick with somebody. You want them to have felt something valuable that touched them.
Mm-hmm. Even if they don't remember it, 20 years later, when they do a book cast and it doesn't come up as their favorite book in the world, just that for that moment, they enjoyed it and they loved it and they were with you the whole time.
Yes, like a song in the car.
Or just causes you to just, even if it's like, it doesn't even have to be that they enjoyed it. Sometimes the best books, ones you're like, what the? Oh my gosh, what happened?
Like Gone Girl. There is no way, spoiler alert, there is no way he stayed with that girl after she's a crazy person because she got pregnant. Even if you went to the doctor.
Frozen sperm.
I know. Even if you went to the doctor and you saw that she was pregnant, I'd be punching that chick in the belly every single day. Slipping like roofie pills or whatever, Plan B pills in her drinks all the time. That crazy girl should not have a kid.
Can I say how proud I am that you did not cuss?
I know. I thought about it. Sometimes I have to run the dialogue like a half second ahead to make sure I don't curse. So yeah.
So there's another author. I think I told you Agatha Christie was my go-to girl for many, many years. But there was a book that she wrote. I think it was called like something like The Murder of Dan Aykroyd or something like that. And what she did, it starts off with the same. This doctor comes in. It's told from his point of view. He's the one that's telling the story, and the famous detective is coming in to solve this murder of Dan Aykroyd. Hercule Poirot is the famous detective. So this doctor comes in and he says, "I left this Mr. Aykroyd where I found him." And he was the doctor that was called in to kind of say, "Oh yes, this guy's dead. Let me make sure everything's," and it goes on. And then you get all the way to the end of the book, and you find out that he was the one that killed the guy. But she was the first one that actually kind of did that.
The twist?
That twist like that.
Oh.
She
I like
did
the
that.
twist of plot.
I love a twist.
People hated her. They lost their minds because that wasn't how it was supposed to be. When you told stories from that first person, when that person was talking, that was the hero of the book, the protagonist. They were always, that's not the way it's supposed to go. And so I actually love that book because it was just such a twist, and you didn't figure it out. And it just sticks with you, even if it makes you mad or you're disappointed in it.
I do like being mad at a book.
Yes.
I really do. I get very mad at the books.
Yeah.
But there are some books I just can't handle. Like, and I've told Marcy this before, but The Passage, very well written, very good book. I tried to skip halfway through to the middle. But there's this one part that was just too close to home. Like, have you read it?
It's on my list. I want to,
I
but I don't mind
do
spoilers.
like depressing books. Now that I think about it.
So, all right, if you don't mind the spoiler alert. So the first book, the beginning part, and it's, I swear, like only 1/10 of the book. Yeah. But it's like where this little girl comes from, who is this pivotal character throughout the whole book, right? She's kind of like patient zero kind of thing that starts this whole new world. But it starts with her mom just being in love with a guy who said he'd be everything to her, and he leaves her. She's pregnant. She has a baby. She's living with her dad. She makes this sort of awesome life together. Her dad dies. She loses the house. The mom starts turning tricks to just give the girl food while the girl's locked in the bathroom in like a motel. And then the mom realizes that she needs to like give the girl something better than this, because I think something happened or whatever. The last trick she did or something got really close to being out of hand or something like that. And so she takes the girl to a convent. And she says, "Can you just watch her for like an hour," or something like that. And the nuns, they knew she wasn't coming back. And the girl was just hopeful. She just sat there, and she I think she knew what her mom was, but she was very good at like, that's when the story changed from the mom being the main character to the daughter being the main character. And it was too much. Like, I was crying. I was sad. And my daughter was only like 2 when I was reading the story, and I was like, I can't handle it. I can't handle having to make it was too close to me, I just couldn't keep going. And it.
I mean, that part, what struck me was that because she was this really sweet and kind girl, but when people looked at her, all they saw was this prostitute or something. But let me just say, it's zombie book.
It is a zombie slash vampire book.
Right. And so that genre is about, I mean, you have the reason that zombies are there, it's really to just kind of explore human nature at its best and worst.
And they talk about the baby daddy being some sort of a little magical, a little bit.
Yes.
That's why the girl was able to do this or something. But it was too much. And like for me,
even World War Z, to me, I mean, can you see because now we're doing our next book club as actually World War Z. It's the same type of thing where they're exploring.
So sad so far. Like I have to keep going back and like re-listening because I'm not sure that it hasn't skipped a part. This is my first audiobook all the way through where I haven't like read the book ahead of time. And I'm nervous that maybe like the audio skipped or I missed a chapter or something like that. So it's not going well. But every like little person's account so far, I'm just like, God, that's so sad. The only person is like the Israeli Jewish guy. The Jewish guy who is like, And he was just, I just picture him like a teenager who's like, I'm so right in my own head. And the whole time he's like trying to stay true to how right he was, and he's realized. Have you read it through?
Mhm.
Everyone? No? Yes? No?
I'm fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't want to.
So it's just typical
I like
like
the
teenager
spoiler.
for me, right? He's like, I'm so right. And then his dad's like, no, you will listen to me. This is what we're doing. And it's just like the whole situation is really sad. Interesting, but sad. I
loved it.
Does anyone have the book? You have the
I have
paper book?
Not the paper.
I bought
Sure.
it. It's on my Kindle. I'm saving it for my vacation.
I need to get a paper version of it so I can trust that the audiobook hasn't skipped something.
What are
I don't
you-
trust it.
Oh,
Audible.
Oh, Audible?
I don't trust it.
Awesome.
I feel
Audible's
like
awesome.
maybe I've fallen asleep at some point because the stories keep changing. Because like Max Brooks, he's the narrator of this one, so like the story keeps like changing.
Isn't that the author's name?
It is. It is. He's
That's
the
weird.
he's the guy doing the interviews
Mhm.
throughout. He's the main character doing the interviews, and so I just keep getting like kind of lost in there. Oh,
And block the...
well, I
Outside
figure
line.
we're cutting the World War Z part out. So. But I keep getting lost in it, and I keep forgetting or thinking I'm missing stuff.
See, that's weird. For some reason, whereas I know when I'm driving down the road, I'm very clear there are parts of it that I have like hypnotized through.
That's what I like.
But when I have a book on, I am very clear that I'm fully focused in on the book while ignoring things around me like scenery because I don't care what I'm driving by.
So maybe that's what I'm missing. It's like when I'm listening to a book, I'm trying to also still figure out what's going on. Like Ivy's still asking me some question or whatever, and I'm getting distracted, and it's not going well.
Maybe it's just not a
That's
book
true.
that you like.
That's a good
Well,
I feel
I mean,
like
if
if I
I
were
could-
reading it and I could be, because I'm just
Yeah.
paranoid. I'm missing parts because it's so, at this point, it's so like jumping around. And
I
if
mean,
it does that the whole book, I don't know if I'll ever feel
It
like
does.
I know
Yeah.
what's going on.
I mean, every chapter is literally a little story, and it's not chronological at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there's the Korean. There's the, okay, this is the order I think it is. The Korean, the
is it one reader?
the
Well, I'm gonna
Jewish.
read it
No.
for you.
I got the full cast version because I signed up
Okay.
for Audible, and so you get like 2 free books for free. And so I was like, well, I'm getting the $40 version because there's no way I'm buying a $40 version again. So it's the Korean, then it's the Jewish guy, then it's the CIA guy, then it's the military guy, I think. But I think I've missed someone in between the CIA guy and the military guy.
That's why I kind of like audiobooks because I'll like tune out. Like it's kind of like my background, now that I don't have cable, it's like my background noise when I'm getting ready. So like if it's a book I really like, I don't think I'd do audio. Like I don't think I'd do an audiobook. But what I dislike most about audiobooks, and I'm reading it so it doesn't really matter, but I hate in an audiobook when there's like a clearly like an American actor and they're doing like a really bad Chinese accent. And I get so offended. And that's why, like, I had to stop reading one book because, like, she was reading and then she'd do, like, a really bad Chinese accent. I was like, nope. This sounds like a good story, but boop, I'm going to delete it. Can't do it. Going back to the library.
When I was listening to Eat, Pray, Love with Elizabeth Gilbert.
Mm-hmm.
She did the whole book, and there were characters because she went to Italy, Indonesia, India.
Love that book.
When she was in India, she did all of the characters that were there with Indian accents, and it was the cutest thing ever. It was because she loved these people so much.
And I love when, like, an author reads their own book. But when it's somebody who's not the author and you're like, that's your idea of a Chinese accent. Are you?
I listened to Harry Potter, and it was this old man, and he would even do Hermione. It was so funny.
bad.
I hear
He's like,
that
Harry!
Yeah.
It was really funny.
Hermione was the only voice that I think was
Yeah.
inauthentic. Jim Dale, what did he do? 270 voices for Harry Potter?
He was very good.
He had individual cassette recorders with names on them, and he would have to listen to the character that he was about to play, so he could remember how he made them sound last time. So you can
Wow.
then speak the same way again.
I also like that about books, when you actually hear the backstory and how
Mhm.
the author did it, or a story like that, and that will actually make me reread it. Because
Uh,
then I'll have that running in the back of my head while I'm rereading the story.
but then, like, Guernsey made me super sad that she died, like, before the
Oh,
end.
the author. Yeah, that was a sad story.
I don't know why that whole backstory on that was super sad. But
Yeah.
also, like, I don't know, I loved that her niece picked it up and was like, my aunt wrote this story, we're gonna get it out there.
She did it well, unlike V.C. Andrews' family.
Well, what have you seen?
Oh, I
She
didn't
died in the middle of a series, and so her family tried to finish the story, and then they rebranded all her books and wrote another series, and it was horrible. It was so horrible, and I was like, you cannot do this. She's turning over in her grave right now. This is because the last series I think was Rain. And it was about this girl from like inner city New York or something like that, and she finds out she's from a rich family. Shocker! And she
That's
trying
why
to.
I read.
I know.
Oh, maybe I am from a rich family.
I know, right? No, but in V.C. Andrews, she usually the main character usually always falls in love with someone she's related to, and then she tries to figure out
also
We
the.
somebody
should
you'd
hook
like to
her
see
up
there.
with George R.R. Martin then.
Yeah.
Maybe they're related in some way.
Right. So, and you could tell, like, at the last quarter of the second book, that there was a different author. I'm actually reading this book right now. I told Jennifer to read it, and you guys, I really like it. You guys should pick it up. It's called A Modern Witch. That's like the first book, and it's like a series or whatever. Have you read them?
No, you
I think
talked
they're
about it.
$3.99 on Kindle. I feel like
They're
that's why I
so
bought it.
cheap.
Yeah.
A Modern Witch, and my mom sent it to me. I really love the series, but I can tell there's two authors. There is because it's totally like a witch in like modern times, and so she is writing. They're they have ways to find out if you're a witch and enhance your abilities and whatever. But they also do an online role playing game. And so there's kind of this techie speak in the background about developing a video game and testing the code and stuff. And unfortunately, I understand what they're talking about, which makes me feel a little nerdy. But whatever. So I really like that. But even though you can tell they're two authors, they do a good job of putting them together. And it only has one author on the book, but I swear, if I were to read the backstory of that author, I bet there's a significant person who helped with all the computer stuff or all this. And, yeah, I can feel like there's 2 years.
Going back to the origins theme.
Yeah, there's Marcy taking it back.
Taking it back, Marcy.
So,
wrap this
That's why
up.
we make you the hostess.
okay, so
You're.
I want to end this with a question.
I don't want to end. I'm having so much fun.
I know it.
We don't have to stop talking. Let's just end the bookcast.
So
Sorry, guys. We're gonna continue
So let me
this
ask
awesomeness.
you, what book do you want to introduce your daughter to the most?
I really, really want to read Ivy, the Harry Potter series. She loves the movie. She loves the fantasy part. She's told me she loves Eagle Cove, but then she wants to go to Hogwarts. Mm-hmm. So I really want to sit down and watch her read Harry Potter and discuss it with her. The whole series, for me.
And for Tanya, I don't know if this is a good question. If you, because you are a writer.
I'll let you know.
We have a writer in our midst. What type of story do you want people? I mean, if there was a story that you're like, this is me, this is mine. What kind of would that be? If you could sum it up in 2 sentences.
Yeah, I don't have anything like that.
I like just putting a
I
limit on you.
I don't.
Like,
This
if
is
you're
trying
trying
to
words
come
and less.
Yes.
The stories that want to come out of me are always about a moment where somebody finds hope out of whatever situation that they're in, whether it's something horrible that happened that they found to be meaningful 10 years later, or your heart is broken and you don't know if God can hear you anymore, and you get some stupid sign from a butterfly that goes by. There's no strong, it doesn't have to be like a wizard story or a story about my friend George. It's more like it's a thing that I feel like if I share one day it might help somebody who never knew my name and has no idea who Tanya is, but they would feel something like hope when they're done.
So, Jennifer, my question for you,
Yeah.
you have to give somebody a book. It has to be, this is like, if this is, I'm going to give you this is, I want you to know about me. This is going to tell you who I am. What book would that be?
I don't know. I don't feel like I have like a favorite book. Like I've got.
So then what would you do then?
I don't know. I don't know because they're like different. Because I forget who said this a long time ago, earlier in maybe part 1, where like where there were different books from like different parts of your life, you know. So
Sounds like a Tanya comment.
Dude, I'm really afraid about this podcast, by the way, because I think I'm the boring one.
I think
Tanya, we are not boring.
We are amazing.
We already have seven viewers.
that is more than a lot of people.
I said me. I know I'm me. That I'm like the one who's like, oh no, the story's boring. While
We are
Tanya's
gold.
talking.
Tanya, I find your voice to be the most melodic. Like I just want to listen to Tanya.
You have a
talk.
radio voice.
You
You have
do.
a podcast voice.
Oh, you're a reader's voice. You should like.
Even if I'm
read.
boring, I've got a good
Audio.
voice. I'll take it. All right, I'm sorry, Jennifer. Go ahead.
Like Insomnia has a dear place in my heart. I don't remember
Stephen
much about
King?
the story. Stephen King.
I like
I
it.
don't remember much about the story, but I remember that was my first Stephen King story. Like that, I don't even know what that Sweet Valley High book was called, but I know it's the one that had a car accident. Jessica doing something crazy. I mean, that could be any book, but because Jessica's crazy. Jessica's crazy. She's a crazy twin.
She was a crazy one.
I don't know. That's a really.
That's okay. You have to answer. You have a great answer. I just wanted to hear what your response was.
Yeah, I just I was thinking about that. I don't have a favorite book or a favorite author. I have, they're like my children. I don't want, and that's why maybe I don't think I'd be a good used book owner because with my books I'm very possessive. I'm like, I'll loan you my book, but I expect that you give it back. So I feel with a used bookstore I'd be like, well, maybe you can take it, but you're gonna bring it back, right? I don't want to lose it forever. Even though I'll only read there are very few books I've reread, and if I've reread them, it's only because I had to for school. Or the Dark Tower series, where I was I just don't remember what happened because it was 20 years ago. So I like my kids.
So we had our origin discussion, or whatever.
Wait, no one asked
Oh,
Marcy a
okay.
question.
So, if you could leave behind a book for your husband after you pass away, just in a horrible situation where you are no longer with us, you want him
I passed
to
away saving a bus load of children.
children, yes.
I saved them all.
Yes. And
Oh, this sounds like Oprah's book club.
I ran 5 miles, non-stop doing it.
yes.
It's horrible.
Yes,
Okay,
and he
but-
comes home to find a book with an inscription or something I always loved this book and wanted you to have it. What would that book be? The book that you would
I wouldn't want to leave him a book about me. I would leave him something that I would think that he would enjoy.
Yeah.
Because one of my favorite things, doesn't happen often, is if you can, I don't know why, I just want to find the perfect book for that person.
Yeah.
That would be it. I would probably give him his R.A. Salvatore weird elf
Hey, I
thing
like the
or whatever,
stories,
or John
the Dark Elf
Grisham.
series.
Yes, see, that's him. He doesn't like a lot of depth. He likes a lot of fighting, and he wants the good guy to win at the end. That's his thing.
Good. All right, I'm with you.
I would give him that,
Oh,
and I would leave that for him. And and if he can enjoy it, that would be good.
Just in case you don't remember from part 1 of this podcast, altruistic word of the day or day 2 for Marcy. She would give someone a book they would love, not a book she would necessarily love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's why people are reluctant to do book club. I mean, not that we've ever had a problem. Some people are like, oh, I don't really want to be like the next person because it's kind of you're it's kind of a piece of yourself you're giving everybody. And if you don't like
it's
it,
very
then
personal.
it's
yes.
it's very vulnerable.
well, now
It's
I feel,
very much like that, especially when you have a book that you just love. I loved Wild.
It's a good book.
I
very
loved Wild. And I would have genuinely been a little heartbroken if people were like, what a stupid ass book
Right.
that was.
Seriously,
Freaking
all the
lady
time
with
in the
some
woods.
shoes that were breaking down on a hike. Seriously.
I am still friends with her on Facebook.
I am too.
So am I. Hey, I got to be friends with her and her Facebook where she's an author. I get all of her posts twice because I'm friends with her as a person
We're talking
and
about
her as a.
Cheryl Strayed.
Yeah.
Straight.
And the reason I'm saying that is because I know she's going to be a fan.
Oh, yeah.
of our podcast. I'm going to make sure that
love-
she knows that we're talking
That's
about
true.
it.
I have written her on Facebook. She has commented back to my comment before.
I wrote
Oh,
I said
yeah.
that she should come to Maryland and nothing.
Oh.
Well, she's like in
What did you write to her that she
Finland
come
or
to
something?
She's in like Portland.
She did some post about like something
Finland,
she had
Portland.
done, and she was talking about her kids. And then I wrote back something that, oh yeah, sometimes kids they whatever. And she's like liked my post, and I was like,
Oh, wow. I'm so jealous right now.
All right, so let's close this up
Yes,
and then we
Marcy
can
was trying to
pause it.
close.
So the only thing I really wanted to say is this book cast seemed to be a little bit all over the place, but I think it's because we really love reading.
Mm-hmm.
We've been speaking for over an hour, and we can literally speak.
no, the part 1 and part 2, absolutely 2 days planned ahead of time.
Exactly.
Completely different
But we
outfits.
could speak for even longer because we just
With
love
commercials for the
the written word.
We love the written word.
Yes, it's definitely yes. I love reading. I don't know why, I just always have, and I don't know that I ever wouldn't.
For me, it's more than reading though. Like, I really love, like, there's movies and TV shows and series. Like, I really love the idea of a story touching me in some way or another. Like, I would always, if you were to ask me what my favorite movie was, I would tell you Wizard of Oz or Footloose. I absolutely love those movies. But recently, a movie I cannot get enough of, every single time it's on TV, I will stop and watch it, is Father of the Bride. I don't know why. I can watch that and Father of the Bride too, like 100 times over and over. It's more to me about a story that like resonates.
A good story. Well, I said a good book is a good book. It's a good book, but really a good story
Yeah.
is a good story. It's a good story.
Yeah.
It doesn't
So that's
matter.
what it is. We love good storytelling in whatever conduit it comes to.
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree. Yeah, I feel
All
less
right.
bad about loving TV now.
Why? Dude.
Right. Well, because I kind of feel like it's like a cheap.
No, it all comes from writing.
Yeah.
It all comes from story. It all comes from relating to other people.
And the very first stories were all oral.
Can I just tell you my favorite scene in what is that movie? The Reign of Fire. Can I tell you one of my favorite scenes in cinematic history? Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale, half naked, fighting. Awesome. One of my favorite scenes in that story.
Write it
is like-
down, Tanya. Rain of Fire.
R-E-I-G-N.
R-E-I-G-N.
Yes.
Reign of, I know how to spell Matthew McConaughey.
Is that it starts 20 years after dragons have like taken over the upper world, so humans are like underworld, and so like these guys that are like our age, right, who lived 20 years ago, and there's these kids who like know nothing about the up world, right, the real world, so they're like, you see, I think it's like Christian Bale or Matthew McConaughey, obviously one of the two main guys,
With not a lot of clothes on.
telling the story, but they're like, Luke, I am your father. And
I
you're
remember
just
that
like,
part.
oh my god, can you imagine like not knowing? I love that because it's,
I did too.
yeah, that was like I like that that scene and the half naked
That's the
fighting.
only part of the movie that I remember is
Right.
that scene. It was a good
Yeah,
scene.
yeah, I was
It's good.
like, I was just like, I just can't even imagine, like, wow.
I'm going to have to copy your notes after.
Okay, all right, so let's end this.
Marcy,
All
go.
right, so good night, everyone. We'll see you next time. I'm Marcy.
I'm Jennifer.
I'm Tanya.
And I'm Lisa.
All right, we're going to keep talking, but good night, everybody.
Goodbye to
But
you.
you're done.
We say good day.